What's going on, good people? Just trying to adjust my mic, but it's whatever. So, I wanted to give my thoughts of the Kyle Rittenhouse case and the verdict um, of the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Now, I must admit, I haven't really been following um, this case too much. Um, I think I got burned out from 2019 to 2020, 21. I got burned out from seeing all these shootings, police shootings, and shootings related to, you know, things of that nature. So I must be the first to admit that I got burned out because of that. So I just kind of checked out. Anyway, anywho, so I don't know if you guys been following the case, but on Friday, um, the jury found Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty of all charges related to the shooting of three men on August the 25th, 2020. Um, the three men that he shot was Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz. So basically, just giving a quick um, background on the situation. Kyle Rittenhouse decided to. He was a 17-year-old boy at the time, so he wasn't legally able to own a firearm. He wasn't even supposed to be in possession of a firearm. But he decided, after watching, I guess, the protests about George Floyd, and because this all happened in Minnesota. Was it Minnesota? Yeah, I want to say it was around the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. I want to say. Let me just double check on that real quick. What all happened from? Okay, it was in Wisconsin. I'm sorry. So all this happened around Wisconsin area. If you know anything about the Midwest, you got Chicago. Oh, I mean not Chicago, but I'm sorry, I'm a bit distracted. Okay, so getting back to my point. So he decided he wanted to go out there and basically protect some property because he felt like the riots were destroying property. So um, he took a AR-15. If anybody's in the military, that's M16 or M4. So he took a AR-15 and it decided to go and protect people's property. None of which is legal, unless the people themselves or the property owner themselves have hired you to be security for their particular property that they're hired you for. So Kyle goes out there and, you know, I guess try to do a show of force with the AR-15, and it went bad, right? So I'm just gonna go over this thing. So let me read this particular article. So it says, a jury on Friday found Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty of all charges related to him shooting three men on August 25th, 2020. Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz and Rittenhouse had traveled to the scene of unrest in Kenosha that night for different reasons. Protesters have gathered there to speak against the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Yeah, I remember that. So it was about Jacob Blake, not George Floyd. I apologize. A black man who was left paralyzed after being shot by a police officer. Rittenhouse, then 17 years old, said he had traveled from his home in Antioch, Illinois to protect private property and help as a medic. Amid protests that turned violent and destructive, Rittenhouse fatally shot Rosenbaum, Hubert, and injured Grosskreutz with an assault-style rifle. I said more than a year later, a jury found him not guilty of 5 charges, including first-degree intentional homicide, in a case that's captivated and divided a nation. So, in my opinion, so far, according to the law, I wouldn't say what happened even constituted first-degree homicide. I would say it was more either second degree or manslaughter. First degree is knowing that you had to intentionally, that was your intentions, to go there to kill someone. That's hard to determine because he showed up with a rifle, because there was a lot of other people out there like that. So that would have been hard to determine. So I don't even know why the prosecutors even went for that in that case. But second degree means that you didn't go there to plan it, but it happened. Or manslaughter is pretty much the same thing, kind of similar. Like you were responsible for someone's death because of your actions. That's basically manslaughter. So I don't know why they even tried him for first degree murder. I don't even know why that charge was even placed on the docket, because that would have been extremely difficult to prove. And I think the prosecutors more than likely did themselves a disservice by trying to try him for first degree murder. What's up, Pops? My stepdad came through. What's up, boss man? So I don't even know why they would even do that. Just seemed like it was foolhardy to me. But I think if they would have went for manslaughter or second degree murder or even third degree murder, I think they probably would have had a good case. Just in my personal opinion. Again, I'm not a legal expert, but based on what the law describes to be second degree murder and manslaughter, that seemed like that would be more fitting for the situation. But anyway, let me go through it. So the first person that was shot that night was Joseph Rosenbaum. And Rosenbaum was this is what it says. It says his 36-year-old crossed paths with Rittenhouse in a used car lot as Rittenhouse brandished an AR-15 style rifle. Rosenbaum, meanwhile, was unarmed and carried a plastic bag containing a toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, deodorant, and some papers. According to Rittenhouse's lawyers, Rosenbaum approached Rittenhouse and attempted to engage him. Afraid, Rittenhouse took off running and Rosenbaum gave chase. See, right there, that just destroys the whole first degree murder argument. He took off running. So, right there, that destroys the whole first degree murder argument. Says videos of the incident show that Rosenbaum eventually threw the plastic bag he was carrying at Rosenhaus, who responded by firing four shots at the man. Wow. So, basically, like I said earlier, Kyle went out there with his AR-15 trying to intimidate people, trying to be, I guess, a armed deterrent at best. But legally, you cannot do that. Like legally, you cannot do that. Like legally, you could show somebody that you're in possession of a weapon as a means of getting them as a de-escalation tactic, right? You can actually do that, but it has to be certain conditions in which you do that under. You can't just go to somebody else's house, show up with a pistol and show your pistol in your hip. That's not your property. That's not your even that is kind of murky, because if this person say, hey, this person's trying to do something to me, and they call you over there, you technically still can't do that because that person is requesting it from you. Do you get what I'm saying? The But I just can't go out at a park because people are gathering and protesting and I don't like it, and show up with a shotgun and be like, you know, y'all need to quiet down, because that's actually violating their rights, and actually it's terroristic threats. There's a law in the books for that. So legally, Rittenhouse is all out of pocket. For one, he was 17. He had no right to be in possession of that weapon. You're not supposed to legally own a firearm until you're 18 in the United States of America. And then you have to pass all these background checks and all this other whatnot. So he shot the dude because he said the dude, gave chase with him. Now, I don't think it was a good idea to give chase to somebody who has a weapon, but that's what they did. And for his efforts, he got killed for it. I'm not saying that what Kyle Rittenhouse did was justified, but in the eyes of the law, and here's where it gets murky at. Here's where it gets murky at. Self-defense is, in the eyes of the law, justifiable. It's considered to be a justifiable homicide. But in order to determine self-defense accurately, you have to determine whether a person, like, I can't come out there and just provoke somebody, and then once it go bad because we get in a fight and I'm getting my A whip, decide I want to kill that person, and then say, hey, I did it in self-defense. Self-defense is supposed to be really one of those things to where you had no choice. You had to defend yourself, right? But now, because of these murky stand your ground laws, because a lot of them, I mean, when you read the fine details about the laws that they own these books, a lot of them, man, they give so much leeway, right? It's not cut and dry. And it's one of the things I appreciate about military law. Military law is cut and dry. Either you did or you didn't. That's military law. But when a lot of these stand your ground laws in these states, there's a lot of gray area to where people can play in. And concerning this particular case right here, to me, it would determine, like, in order to determine self-defense, you have to decide, when did it become a situation to where he himself was in harm's way? Kyle Rittenhouse. And it seems like to me what the jury did, because he got off, he basically was acquitted. It seems like to me what the jury did is that they didn't take into account that he was not legally able to be in a possession of a firearm. They didn't take into account that it was not his property. They didn't take into his account that he traveled from another town to come there when no one had invited him to. They did take into account that he was brandishing an AR-15 as an intimidation tactic. Like, it seemed like all of those things were disregarded in order for them to come up accurately with this verdict. But let me keep going. So now, after Kyle Rittenhouse has shot Mr. Rosenbaum, I don't know why to call him Michael. I know who Michael Rosenbaum is, but he's an actor. After he had shot the guy, Rosenhouse panicked, and he set off running away from the scene of the fatal shooting. This is what it says: toward a police line. But along the way, several protesters who believe Rittenhouse was the active shooter began chasing after him. Anthony Hubert was one among those men. The 26-year-old grew up in Kenosha and was an avid skateboarder and was at the protest with his girlfriend, Hannah Giddings. Hubert eventually caught up to Rosenhouse and tried to stop him by hitting him with the skateboard. But the single blow was not enough to bring Rosenhouse down. Within seconds of the tussle, Rittenhouse fired a single shot into Huber, who can be seen staggering away, then collapsing into the ground into video footage of the incident. See, again, now you have to determine where Kyle Rittenhouse's life is in danger, right? Because basically, Kyle Rittenhouse was at a protest. He shot someone. He shot someone. And people perceived him to be the shooter. So they seen him running away from the scene. So they gave chase. And I'm not saying none of this stuff is advisable. I'm just going through the facts. They gave chase to try to stop him from fleeing the scene, basically. So he got into it with Anthony Hubert. Hubert tried to, I guess, take him down. He hit him in the back with a skateboard, right? Kyle Rittenhouse, in returns, after a brief struggle, fires into Anthony Hubert, killing him. So the first shooting incident, if you determine that, if you ignore, the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't be in this situation anyway, you can come up with a decent self-defense case. But the second one, there's no excuse. The second one, now you're an active shooter, and especially with all of these shootings that happen across this nation. So the second one, you are an active shooter. You've shot someone, and you're trying to flee the scene, and then, your fellow citizens are trying to detain you. So you shoot someone in return. Again, shot another person. So let's go through this last one. So he shot Gage Grokretz after that. Grokretz, along with Huber, was one of the several people who gave chase to Rittenhouse after he shot and killed Rosenbaum. Prosecutors have said that the group believed that Rittenhouse was an active shooter. That's logical. That's just only logical to believe that we heard a shot, we see you with a gun, we believe you're an active shooter. So Grokretz was armed with a pistol that night, but he also had his medical supplies, all of which were standard for him to bring to protest, he testified. So he OG in his protesting game. So he was there the night to help out with medical care. He's been to a dozen protests over the summer. Grokretz said he was not intentionally pointing his weapon at Rittenhouse, but during the cross-examination, he agreed that it was pointed at Rittenhouse at the moment he was shot. So Rittenhouse shot Grokretz in the arm. Grokretz said he lost 90% of his right bicep. Grokretz became a paramedic. Let me tell you something about AR-15 rounds, man. Let me tell you about that 5.56. That's a nasty round to get hit by. Listen, that's standard military issue. That 223, 5.56. That is standard military issued rounds that we use in our armed forces, right? The way that bullet comes out, it comes out and it's flipping. It's not spinning how you see a normal rifle. It comes out flipping, right? And it's flipping up and down. And when it hits you, I mean, it's basically if you know how a 22 round acts, do you know how to 5.56, but just take it on steroids. It can hit you in your chest and come out your side. It can easily do that. It's a nasty round to get hit by it. I mean, it's deadly accurate. This is why we use them. If he hits you with it, more than likely you're going down. It's a highly, highly capable round. And for it to be walking around in civilian hands, man, I'm just be honest with you. For it to be walking around in civilian hands, it's anywho. Says after the shooting, Grokretz filed a lawsuit alleging that the city officials and law enforcement were aware of, supported, and collaborated with armed vigilantes on the night of the shooting. Regrets has not commented publicly following the verdict. He was seeking privacy after all the attention from the past year, his attorney said. Okay, so I went through the article. Let me get my thoughts. Um, Let me just get my thoughts. And I'm going to kind of relate this. I'm going to kind of relate this back to the Ahmaud Arbery case. But let me just give my thoughts. Because the cases are somewhat similar. And somewhat similar in the regard of you have somebody that's dead because someone else determined they were going to take vigilante justice in their hands. Rittenhouse, in my opinion, he was tried for the wrong thing. He should have been tried for first degree murder. But his defense team did a really good job of sowing reasonable doubt, right? That it wasn't his intentions to go there to harm anyone, right? They're not debating the fact that people got harmed. It just wasn't his intentions to go there to harm anyone. And that's what the prosecutor's job is, to try him for the right crime. And they didn't do that, in my opinion. They did not do that. I think that this sets a precedent for people thinking that they can take up arms to protect other people's property that don't belong to them. We have laws on the books that says that's not supposed to be so. And so I think that Kyle Rittenhouse, for the first one, I think that should have been manslaughter, in my opinion. Because had he not been out there with that rifle trying to intimidate, that situation would have never escalated. Rittenhouse was charged with first degree homicide, which is the top charge. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he should have been charged with first degree homicide. I mean, I just don't think that was an accurate thing to charge him for. I don't think you can determine whether it was his intentions or not. I don't think that you can determine whether he chose that was his intentions of going down there to harm someone. I don't think you can determine that. This is my thoughts about the kid. I really feel like that he thought it was a good idea in his mind. He gonna go down there. He gonna try to quote unquote make a difference, and he's going to try to do a show of force. I think that, and it went bad. I think that's what happened, in my personal opinion. I think he tried to do a show of force, and I think it went bad. And I think that, should he be held accountable for deciding those things? Yes, I do think that he should. But I think that first degree homicide, particularly because you have to prove that that was a person's intentions, that you was knowingly going down there to harm and kill someone. Exactly. Exactly. Rosenbaum, Chase Rittenhouse. Exactly. That was the problem. You know what I'm saying? And um, once that happened, you have a valid defense for self-defense. Like I said, especially if you determine if you don't, you have a valid case for self-defense. What I was trying to say, especially if the jury doesn't take into account the fact that Rittenhouse, if they disregard a lot of things, as far as him coming out there with a weapon and all, if they disregard that, and once that young man took off running and Rosenbaum gave chase, um, um, He said, you can't use deadly force because someone is chasing you. Actually, that's not true. That is a textbook definition of self-defense. If you have a right to stand your ground in a lot of these states. So whatever you have in your hand, um, um, what are you saying that what are you saying that I'm wrong about, low key, for life? What are you saying I'm wrong about? And please don't call me out my name. What are you saying I'm wrong about? Because in my opinion, I think Rittenhouse was wrong for being out there with a weapon anyway. I think that if Rittenhouse wouldn't have left his home and came out there with a weapon, I don't think none of this stuff would have happened. So, but as I said, okay, I'm just I'm just saying this right here. I think, in my personal opinion, when you talk about opinion, or morality versus the law, the way the law is currently constructed, okay, I don't agree with the law in a lot of regards. I don't know what's going on in my comment section. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Um, Local ET for life. I don't understand what you're. I don't understand who are you saying is wrong, myself or John Dillinger? Okay, let me get back to my train of thought. Okay, it's just like this, man. I think that Rittenhouse was wrong for going out there. He was 17. Obviously, he had no right having a weapon of any kind. Um, and I think all of that should have been taken into consideration. But I don't think that's what the jury did. I think the jury took in consideration from the moment that Rosenbaum engaged him and Rittenhouse took off. And from that aspect, when Rosenbaum took off and chasing, in my opinion, like I said, I was in the military for 5 years, did 4 deployments, been to war at least 3 times. I'm telling you that AR-15 is a nasty weapon to be trying to apprehend somebody to try to take somebody out of somebody's hands. It's just it's not something that you necessarily want to do. Okay, you said why he had the weapon was immaterial because having the gun wasn't illegal. The gun charge being dismissed was huge. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we're talking about law versus actually morality. It was in a lot of these cases come down to legal loopholes in the law. Rittenhouse should not have been out there. All right, wasn't his property. He shouldn't have been out there. But because he was out there, people, the jury and the judges and all the people involved have to go off the legal framework. And according to the law, okay, just like what you're saying, I didn't say morality doesn't play. I didn't say it plays out in court. I didn't say that at all. I've stated several times that when it comes according to the law, and like when you say they got the gun charge dismissed, that's a huge deal because now it has nothing to do with whether he should have had the gun or not. It has everything to do with did he have a right to use deadly force being in possession of the weapon. He tried to play what angle? The morality angle? listen, the thing about it is that um, when it came to the first person, then yeah, somebody chasing you. If we're gonna dismiss the gun charge, somebody chasing you, you turn around and you fire a shot at them. Um, okay, well, listen. Um, I never said that morality plays out in the courtroom. I never said that. Matter of fact, one of the reasons why I strongly disagree with the law because morality isn't taken into account. That's why I disagree with the George Zimmerman verdict, because George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin because George Zimmerman initiated the whole situation, and I think that's murder any way you slice it. If I instigate a situation with you and you just happen to get the upper hand on me, and then I use deadly force, who's wrong? Right? But in the framework of the law doesn't see it like that. The law doesn't take certain things into account. That's why I don't agree with the law. That's really why I don't agree with the death penalty, because we're not taking certain things into account. I think the in this particular case, I think the prosecutors overreached. I think they went, like I said, I think they tried to try him for first degree murder. Um, I think what got Zimmerman off is that the prosecutors didn't know what the heck they were doing. I think in that case too, I think the prosecutors overreached. I think in accordance to the framework of the law and what a person should be charged for, I think they overreached when trying to charge Zimmerman with second degree murder. I think these cases become too politicized, in my personal opinion. Exactly. I do believe that too. I definitely think the prosecutor charged Rittenhouse too soon without all the facts. I 100% agree with you. I think that, like I said, my determination. Um, and I think that um, like I said, these cases become too politicized. And so, there's a lot of, excuse me, there's a lot of pressure on these prosecutors to deliver mob justice, point blank, period. You know what I mean? There's a lot of pressure on these prosecutors to deliver that. Um, but like I said, when you start talking about law versus morality, those are two different things. But the way the law is constructed is so that morality doesn't have to play a factor. And to a great degree, I feel like that's in error. I feel like that's an error. I feel like there are certain things that can happen regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your religious affiliation. There are certain things that are just morally wrong. If you go out there and start a confrontation with somebody and the confrontation goes bad, in the case of Trayvon Martin, Trayvon was walking home. Trayvon did not know who George Zimmerman was. The only thing that Trayvon knew in his mind that someone's following me. If I figure out that you're following me being an ex-soldier, I'm probably going to find some type of way to engage you to protect my own self. That's just common sense. And just because you, the person that's following me, trying to figure out where I'm going, just because I start handing it to you, doesn't give you the right to take my life. Matter of fact, I could say the opposite. I could say because you were following me and because I was afraid for my life, I killed you. It doesn't make it right. So when are we going to start actually um what listen, why wouldn't he have jumped on Zimmerman? Zimmerman's okay. Do you agree that Zimmerman was following him? The 911 call states that Zimmerman was following him and that they asked George Zimmerman not to engage Trayvon Martin. A 17-year-old kid who's scared for his life. I have a 14-year-old son. I have a 14-year-old son who just so happens to like to wear hoodies, and I'm trying to break him out of that habit because I feel like, you need to present a better image. But why would he be wrong for someone following him and for him to actually want to defend himself? Because he has the right to be afraid. If my wife called me and say there's somebody following her, first thing I'm tell her is, where's your weapon? Okay, you got your weapon. Okay, this is how you determine if that person is following or not. Make this turn, make this turn, make this turn, make this turn. If they're still there, they're following you. Defend yourself. That's what I'm going to tell my wife, because that's how I'm going to respond. So why wouldn't Trayvon have the right to feel like someone is threatening his life and to try to defend himself the best way that he know how to? I feel like weapons, particularly pistols and assault rifle, it gives people a different type of courage that they would normally have if they didn't have that weapon by their side. It emboldens people to, approach and harass and take stances that they have no business taking. What? You're not serious, right? You don't think following somebody is a threat? Just in itself, you don't think stalking somebody or following somebody while they're walking home is a threat? You don't think that's dangerous? I'm just curious. Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what, follow me home and see when I turn around and enter the dragon on whoever follow me home. You following me, you don't have a right to follow me. I don't know what your plans are. You don't have no right to follow me. You know what? This is how I see it. I try to be as impartial and unbiased as I possibly can. He did make a threatening gesture. He followed him. That's a threatening gesture. You following somebody is a threatening gesture. You can be in broad daylight in the mall and you can follow someone and they can feel threatened easily. He said in some states you can't do what right. You talking about leaving and going to and trying to defend someone's property? What do you mean by that, Mac Dre? Judd Dillinger, man, are you trolling me, man? You can't possibly mean that, right? What harm did he suffer from being followed? Following somebody is a threatening gesture. You need to state their reason for being there. You don't just follow somebody because you have determined that you're going to follow them. And you have determined that I need to keep an eye on you. I don't know what your intentions are. You're talking from a soldier that was trained in these ways. Okay. All right. Well, you don't feel like it's a threatening gesture, then that's on you, man. It's a threatening gesture. So I, you said, hold on, in New York City, you can't walk around with AR-15 across your chest about. Right, right, right. And in other states you can. Oh, you said me being a soldier is irrelevant. Really? I'm okay. um, man, you got me chuckling this morning. First of all, I stated the fact that I was a soldier because we are trained to identify potential threats. It's drilled in us to identify potential threats. or when someone's acting in a suspicious manner, right, that could possibly cause us some type of harm. We're trained to identify those things, right? And especially as you get into the combat arms, which I was in the combat arms unit. So we're trained to identify that stuff, right? So when somebody is, one of the key identifying facts that you're up under a threat is somebody following you. That's why I said earlier that if my wife told me that somebody was following her, I would tell her to make certain moves. Because if a person is not following you, then when you make those moves, it will root them out. I didn't say I would shoot somebody for just following me. What I said was I would engage. You said that he engaged George Zimmerman. I said that I would engage you and determine why are you following me. That's what I said. I didn't say anything about shooting anybody. But I would be prepared to shoot you because I don't know your intentions. What business do you have following somebody? I'm just curious. What business do you have following somebody? Especially if you're not a law enforcement agency. What business do you have following somebody? Do you know legally law enforcement agents can't even, in most states, they can't even enter into your home without a legal warrant? They have to have the authorization. You just can't break in somebody's home. You can't just follow people. You can't just do that. Even law enforcement officers have to state the reason why they're telling you and they're following you and pulling you over. So if a law enforcement agency who's been trained to do these things and has the legal authorization to detain you, if they have to identify themselves, why do you think as a person, just a normal average citizen following you, they don't have to do that neither? I'm just curious. Okay. What I'm saying to you, sir, is that as a normal citizen, a private citizen, as a private citizen, what I'm saying to you is I am a private citizen and another private citizen is following me. I am going to try to figure out what are your intentions. All right. If I'm in a park or an enclosed area, or I'm just walking home. Okay, so you saying it's crazy. Following somebody is crazy, but not illegal. Okay, it's not illegal to follow somebody, but what is it going to do to that person that's being followed? Ken Wallace says Kyle wasn't following anybody, but the guy he was. So he wasn't following that, but the guy he was out there with, the people that attacked Kyle are the people that followed someone. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but we were talking about Trayvon and George Zimmerman, but yeah. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is that if George Zimmerman followed Trayvon at night and he didn't know, that's going to make Trayvon nervous and suspicious. Can we determine that? Because this is what I'm talking about, human nature. Okay, Ken Wallen just said. Matter of fact, let me just say it like this right here. And like I said, Ken just kind of alluded to them. I was kind of comparing. I was kind of comparing them, Ken. But the point of the matter was the reason why Rittenhouse was able to determine self defense is because he was running away from somebody and they chased after him, right? So in the eyes of the law, he wasn't trying to engage them; he was defending himself. So, and what I was talking about when it came to Zimmerman was Trayvon. Zimmerman got off because the prosecutors overreached. And I say, in my personal opinion, all right, Zimmerman instigated that whole situation. He should have never approached Trayvon. He should have never been following him. That's in my personal opinion, right? But the law doesn't consider the morality. And that's the reason why I have an issue with the law, because there's certain moral things that it should take into account. You don't just get to just start an escalated situation with somebody and then try foul or say, hey, I was defending myself in self-defense. I don't get to come in your space and then start a fight with you. And just because you decided, I didn't realize you knew like 8 different forms of martial arts, and I get my behind whooped. Then I pull out a knife and stab you. And I say, hey, I didn't know he knew 8 different forms of martial arts. I was getting beaten, severely beaten. I thought my life was in danger. I started it. You don't get to, that's my opinion. If you instigate something, you are the person that should be held responsible. Zimmerman got off because Martin attacked him. Okay, that may be in the eyes of the law, but this is what I'm saying. I said, in my personal opinion, the morality of it is Zimmerman instigated the situation. He instigated it by following him, right? The law determined otherwise. Okay, the law said Martin engaged Zimmerman, so Zimmerman had the right to stand his ground. That's what the law says. So we're not arguing different things. We're talking about me saying there should be a morality component that is not considered a part of the law. It's not. I get why the law doesn't do it, right? But right, this is what I'm saying. I don't think that you should be able to provoke a situation and then cry foul when you're getting your A-whip. I don't think that's what should happen. It's just me. I just don't think that's what should happen. It's just like this right here, man. You at a bar, you and your partner, y'all just got off work. Well, I don't think, and even if they tried to prosecute him based off provocation, I don't even think that was right. Because okay, I don't think it was smart for him to go out there with a gun and basically as a nuclear deterrent. Okay. I don't think that he should have went out there and just say, hey, y'all come over here messing with these property, I'm gonna kill you. I don't think that's provocative. I think it's intimidating, but I don't think that's provocative. Right? When to provoke a situation means you started it. And every facts of the case, that aside from the fact that Rittenhouse went out there with the gun and he was trying to defend the property, everybody engaged Rittenhouse. Point blank, period. He said Zimmerman had the right to follow Martin and Martin had the right to ask why. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I agree 100% with that statement. I mean, you can follow me, but like I said, Martin had to turn around and say, hey, why are you following me? And I think, like I said, even in that, I think Zimmerman shouldn't have been following him. This is how I feel about it. I think Trayvon Martin would still be alive if George Zimmerman had not engaged in that situation. He should have left well enough alone. At a minimum, step back, call the police and say, hey, there's somebody suspicious. Can you get him out here? And leave it alone. But he didn't. Zimmerman did not do that. Sorry about that, y'all. I was eating a peppermint. I apologize. So anyway, I think that the waters are getting murky when it comes to these gun laws and what you can and what you cannot do. And I think that the nation is so polarized because you have people on both sides that don't want to actually sit down and talk reasonably about a solution. You have the Constitution of the United States that says everybody has the right to bear arms, right? And you have to learn how to work around that framework to where you're keeping, you're not infringing on people's rights, but at the same time, you're keeping everyone safe. And when you keep having incidents like this, it just tells me that we're not getting anywhere. I think we're at the same place that we were about 40, 50 years ago when it comes to gun laws. Now, I completely disagree with people that say we shouldn't own guns. Want to know how? I go back and forth to Africa all the time. So I think citizens, if you ask a lot of those citizens over there who don't have the right to bear arms, would they prefer to have the right to bear arms? They would tell you yes. You said what else people missed during the trial was the fact that Rittenhouse didn't want an AR-15. He wanted a 12-gauge shotgun, but the gun store had none in stock. Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, he said no, it's not. I I don't know, man. I disagree with. I agree with Ken. I think this country is in because at least back then the country could find some type of common ground to move forward. What common ground has this country don't use to move? Look at. I don't always. I don't agree with everybody, but look at what they did to Donald Trump. Right? They use race and the pandemic and all of these other things to basically manipulate people to vote against Donald Trump because of Joe Biden, right? And I'm not liberal. Um, I'm not affiliated with any political party. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. Um, None of those things. Like I said, I am just unbiased, and I seen what they did. I seen propaganda, right? And you couldn't trust me, especially from an African American man. You couldn't say a positive word about Donald Trump in front of most other African American people, and it would be an all-out war. And you couldn't say anything bad about Joe Biden in front of other people. It would be an all-out war. Said people 40, 50 years ago had a thing called personal responsibility. Now people make excuses as criminals at every turn. Exactly. I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that. You could at least be held accountable for your actions back then. You can't now. You get off, people get off in every which way. It's an issue that when it comes to gun laws in this country, I feel like every citizen should have the right to bear arms, just like what the Constitution says. And because the thinking was, let's never allow an overreaching government to oppress its citizens. That was the thinking. That was the thinking about the right to bear arms. And when you, like I said, when you go around the world, and particularly, you know what I'm saying, in Middle Eastern, Eastern Europe, African countries, let's just take Afghanistan. If the citizens had the right to bear arms, do you think the Taliban would be oppressing them like they are? It wouldn't happen because there will always be a threat of a coup. And you know, one of my home countries, and I love it to death, but the police are. We talk about police brutality here, man. Please, the police are on a whole different level. Look up NSAR's campaign in Nigeria. They're on a whole nother level in Nigeria. What they do to their citizens over there is just ridiculous. It should be war crimes. They can pull you over for a routine, not even a routine stop. They just pull you over for anything and determine that they want to take any of your personal possessions for themselves. Take a bribe from you right there on the spot. And if you don't comply, there's a possibility you're going to get beat, shot, whatever. There are people that have been arrested in Nigeria that have never been heard from again. So it's never the fault of the person that committed the crime. It's always the gun or their upbringing or lack of breast milk. I agree. That's that personal responsibility we just refuse to take. Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. I completely agree. I really do. Um, they act like the gun just jumped in the person's hands and fired itself. They got to have something that happened in their background. Oh, when he was 3 years old, his mama took his Lego away. So that sent him on a downward spiral. you know, they really don't, Ken. They really do not realize. I'm telling you, I travel back and forth to Africa. My wife and I. My wife is Nigerian. I'm from the Massa people out of Cameroon. People really don't understand how good they have it in the United States of America. And you know what trips me out is I hear some of the complaints that I hear about the wage gap, all of this, just these things that they how do I say it? They're trivial, right? You go to work in some of these countries that where I frequent, man. You go to work, and sometimes you lucky if you bring home $30 a month, but your expenses are far more than that, right? And then you have to worry about the police pulling you over and taking whatever you've earned. And it's not something that it's not like it's not a high possibility, especially if you're in high areas to where there's police activity, like in Nigeria around the Lagos area. You know, they could pull you over with the ease, beat there, and there's no repercussions for it. There is nothing to stop police brutality in that country. And people, like I said, it's not and I guess it determines where you're at, but to me, it's not necessarily a race-based thing. And I see that, and I say that because of the experiences that I have around the world. Now, do I think in America does it play a part? Yes, because there were certain things said about particular races that it was trying to determine whether this person was a criminal or not. So it was already determined that you was a criminal if you was of this particular race. So it would be foolhardy to say it doesn't play a factor here. It does. But when you go to other countries, what's the driving thing? Poverty. It's poverty. Poverty. People want power. But I 100% agree with you. People do not realize how well they have it here. They do not realize how really good they have it here. And I think people take that for granted. I think people take it for granted. America can stress you the hell out because everything is so fast paced here. And we don't really understand how fast paced it is until we leave and go to other places and be like, oh, it moves a lot slower. You don't have the expenses. But it's harder to make it. It's a lot more difficult to make it in other places. Yeah. But anyway, man, I getting back to the Rittenhouse thing. I think that the prosecutors overreached. I think that um, you know, I think there should have been some accountability that was held because I think that, like I said, You throw out when you don't take into account the morality clause and within the framework of the law, he was innocent. I don't think it was first degree murder or homicide or whatever it was. I don't think that's what it was. I think they far overreached by that. And I think they did that because of politics. I think they probably could have got him on other things. I think they could have got him on other things, and they just didn't. So, anyway, with that being said, man, I thank y'all for stopping through, and everybody hit me up in the comment section and in the chat, and and I appreciate you guys for coming through with those are my thoughts, and I really, really appreciate the engagement. You guys have a very, very blessed morning. I'm out.